How? How is this so good? What's the story, YouTube? This is Heritage, and this is my Sonic the Hedgehog review. Gotta admit, I went into this with no expectations whatsoever, but it turned out to be one of the most enjoyable films I've seen in ages. In fact, probably since Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. The track record for video game films is absolutely appalling, so I went into this with no real expectations whatsoever. But they absolutely nailed it. I think what it was, I was kind of racking my brains about what really made it work. And for me, it's the tone. It's the way this film, brings itself over to the audience. I kept thinking, what was it like? And it's like a real blast from the past, a real 80s type of film. I kept thinking of stuff like Flight of the Navigator, stuff like Explorers and Back to the Future, to be honest with you. It has that tone, that anarchic joy and that kind of irreverence to it. Sonic himself comes off as a kind of a PG-rated Deadpool. And the rest of the cast, throw themselves into the role with just all the fun and enjoyment that you'd expect for something like this. It's a family film. That's what's really so good about this. And it's why I can see it doing really, really well. It's already smashed all the video game opening weekend amounts. I think last I checked, it was like 68 million. I think it's done well over 100 million worldwide. I think 111 million, something like that. I'm not 100%. I've got a chance to check it out. And for me, it's an absolute no-brainer because this film has rewatchability stamped all over it. You can bring kids to see this again and again, and they'll just catch little things that they missed because the character's zipping around the screen so fast. And I can see parents loving this because it doesn't patronise them. Like, it's very entertaining. There'll be nods of the heads for them to stuff that they remember, while having all the hyper connectivity that kids, get drawn to in terms of, well, it's basically a live action cartoon. I mean, it's literally been that long since I've seen a film that has kind of throwaway characters, like they're not hugely important or anything, but it's just like, well, Crazy Larry is in this. When you see him, it's just hilarious. It's not a big role, nothing at all, but it's just something that you would see if this kind of universe actually existed. Jim Carrey throws himself into the role in a way he hasn't since the 90s. He's really enjoyable as Dr. Robotnik. And I got to give props to James Marsden. He's actually really funny in this. This guy has a great bent for comedy. I know he's done stuff like, I think it was Enchanted or Ella Enchanted. I'm not 100% which one it was, but he's basically done comedic roles before. And this one is tailor-made from. There's a really funny bit in the beginning where Sonic is just messing with him because he's basically a traffic cop in a town with no traffic, and that leads into a scene with a tortoise, and Sonic basically takes him on a massive joyride, and it's just hilarious to see. But yeah, really, really surprised. Like I said, I had no expectations for this whatsoever. I had heard good things over the weekend in relation to it. The score itself, the critics, of course, on Rotten Tomatoes hate it. I think they get them like 40 something or whatever. I think there's 95% off audiences, and I can see why. I mean, it's really enjoyable. I give it a good 7 out of 10, high 7 out of 10. Like I said, it probably won't please most adults because it's not aimed at that market, in fairness. But I mean, it is definitely fun, joyous film, really good special effects. And like I said, harkening back to films like Back to the Future and Explorers and Flight of the Navigator, got a good heart to it. The good old heart tugging moments in this film. And it's kind of really struck me how few films we've had in the last couple of years actually have that element of humanity to it. So there you go, spoiler-free section of this. Sonic the Hedgehog, a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Really enjoyable. Took me back to the stuff I used to see back in the 80s. It's going to do really well. I can see this doing probably 700 million. That's what it feels like to me. And that might even be conservative with that. Depends, what buzz it gets amongst the target audience for it, because the cinema I was in jammered. It was actually full, mostly kids, but like they were with their parents and all that, and they seemed to be enjoying it just as much as the kids did. Like, they were laughing at all the jokes, so they were landing where they were supposed to. And if you're going to talk about rewatchability, I mean, if you can get a parent to go back again knowing that they've enjoyed themselves the first time around, that's half the battle. So there you go, 7 out of 10, high 7 out of 10, Sonic the Hedgehog, worth seeing, check it out. Okay, this is the spoiler section now. It's when you look at this film, they really did, do themselves a massive service by listening to the fans when they redesigned Sonic, because it really makes a difference. When I look at the original design that they were going to put in it, that was kind of horrific looking. Like it didn't look anything like the cartoon character that we're all used to. The cartoon character really works in this because it's that kind of a film, particularly up against Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has a kind of an animated performance anyway, so it really does suit in this world. And the main story of Sonic is basically he's being pursued by other people who want his power. So he ends up on Earth basically about 10 years ago by the sounds of it. And he's settled in here now, so he's not a fish out of water. He's basically become this urban legend. As I said earlier, there's a guy called Crazy Larry, is the only person that's actually seen with him. And he keeps winding him up. Like he keeps running across his traps and, just basically getting glimpses of him. And, like Larry's out there going, I'll get you one day. And he's like, no, you won't. It's really funny for stuff like that. There's a lovely montage as well where he's talking to people in the bar and they're just laughing at him because basically that's how he gets his nickname, Crazy Larry. So in a way, the theme of this film is basically home, for want of a better term, and belonging, like trying to, friendship and family. That's what it's really about. And Sonic is kind of longing for that. He's living vicariously through the town of Green Hills where he's staying. And basically what happens is one day he gets really upset and he ends up unleashing this EMP. Or something along that lines that takes out most of the west coast of America in terms of its electrical grid. So this draws the attention of Dr. Robotnik and the American government. So Sonic knows he has to flee, and he basically has to use the rings that he has. They're kind of like dimensional portals that just open up and he can run through it. And he's always been told by his former guardian that if he needs to flee from Earth, he can go to the mushroom world, which is boring as hell but safe. And it's really cleverly done how they set up the actual plot, for want of a term, of this film, because James Marsden's character, Tom, is like the town sheriff. He actually wants to move to San Francisco because he feels like he's not underachieving. It's more like he wants to be important. He wants to be a real police officer, for want of a better term. So he's applied to go to San Francisco because where he is like a small town of a couple of hundred people, and like the worst thing he's got to do is sort out somebody's cow giving birth and stuff like that. So he's all set to move off there with the girlfriend and the wife, and Sonic actually ends up in his house when he's fleeing from Dr. Robotnik. And he's going to use one of the rings to go to the mushroom world. But he ends up getting shot by a tranquilizer dart by Tom. And this results in, him groggily saying San Francisco because he reads what's on Tom's shirt. This opens up the dimensional portal to San Francisco, and the bag with all the rings in it falls through that and lands on the big tower that, the iconic tower that's in San Francisco that he has to go to in order to recover the rings in order to get out of Dodge. So at this stage, it basically evolves into a road trip movie between Tom and Sonic. And basically, they learn, to become friends. Basically, that's what it's really all about. Sonic is like really lonely in this whole time. So it's actually a really done well part of the film where you see James Marsden and Sonic, bond, and how he, has a bucket list of stuff he wants to do on air before he goes. And this leads to a scene in the bar, the biker bar, basically when they're on the road. And like this is where they start borrowing from stuff like Days of Future Past in the X-Men films, where there's a kind of a gag reel type thing of where he sets up all these lads for a fall from hyperspeed. But that's forgivable because it's really, really well done. It's actually hilarious to see how that bar fight ends. I particularly love the guy that was ended up wrapped in toilet paper. It's at this stage that Dr. Robotnik is actually going after Sonic, and he recovers a quill from Tom's house. And this is kind of charged with the electrical energy that Sonic possesses, and he can actually use this to fuel his weaponry and his drone tech that he's got. I must point out as well at this stage that there's a great relationship between Jim Carrey's character, Dr. Robotnik, and his assistant. That the banter between those two is just hilarious. It really does work well. So like I said, it evolves into a chase film from then on until trying to get to San Francisco so Sonic can escape. This leads to a scene in Tom's girlfriend's sister's house. She just hates him. She's always trying to get the sister to leave him. She's always singing stuff like DIVORCE and stuff like this. And it works really well. The humor in this is just down. The tone is just fantastic. And this is how Tom's girlfriend gets introduced to Sonic because she's a veterinarian. So apparently, like there was an explosion when Sonic tried to save them from a drone. and she had to try and assess him to see if he was okay. But it's really just about getting them together and getting them to the tower in San Francisco, and that leads into a big battle in the end, which Sonic uses one of the rings to bring them back to Green Hills. And there's a lovely moment there where the town all comes around for Sonic because, like I said, they've all known him as a kind of an urban legend, and now that they actually see him there, like like I said, it took me back to those 1980s films, and even stuff like if you look at Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, like that scene on the bridge where all the New Yorkers started hurling stuff at the Green Goblin because, Spidey was one of them. It's that kind of a feel to it, and it's really a kind of a coming together of all the story arcs where you realise that, that they're going to be friends, and family and the like. And then, like I said, they defeat Robotnik. He ends up on the Mushroom World. Sonic ends up moving into the house with Tom and his girlfriend. And I guess that leads him as the kind of de facto secret guardian of Green Hills or something like that. But it just ends then. And it was, as I said, it's an immensely fun film. Only about, I think, an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes, something like that. I'm not 100%, but it really nipped along. Like I said, that's another thing in common with the 1980s films. They were only about 1 hour 50 minutes at the most too. They came in, got the story done, tugged on the heartstrings, and we're out of there. And that's exactly what this film is. So I can't, rubbish it because it does exactly what you expect it for. It's a family entertaining film about an animated hedgehog that runs at hyperspeed. That's got a good dose of heart to it. That's a hell of a lot more enjoyable than most of the stuff that Hollywood put out in the last year. So there you go. That's my review of Sonic the Hedgehog. Really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, a high 7. Kids will love it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if it's anything like the kids that reacted in the audience I was with, they're going to have a great time. Parents will enjoy it too because there's some great jokes and japes in it, and really enjoyable. So there you go. That's my review. If you like this, like and subscribe. Leave a comment below about what you think about it yourself. And if you want to share this with anyone, go for it. Take care, guys.